Hello, my name is Alex Cuozzo, and my research pertains to the psychological implications of test preparation for the SAT. I chose this topic because as a junior I have taken the SAT and prepared for it, and I know for a fact that many other students at SAS have also taken the SAT and prepared for it. So there's a lot of research that has been done on standardized tests, but there's not really much research that has been done on test preparation. Most of the research that has been done on standardized tests is really varied. There's a little bit on the SAT, but there's nothing on the psychological implications of taking test preparation for the SAT. So there's a gap in the knowledge here that I'm addressing by researching the psychological implications of preparing for the SAT. The purpose of this research is to be mainly exploratory, so I'm not going to any central argument, but rather I am presenting findings for people to make more informed decisions, at least at SAS, because this is a case study pertaining to SAS. Next slide. So here's my research question. What are the psychological implications of test preparation for the SAT with respect to these 5 things: confidence, mood, preparedness, anxiety, and motivation? You might be wondering where I got these 5 different factors. In my literature review, when I was going through literature on standardized testing, I came across Senjus Gulek's Preparing for High Stakes Testing, in which he called for further research to be done on these 5 factors, all of which fall into the psychological category. I chose to apply this to test preparation and thus came up with my research question. So here are the definitions. Motivation is having a strong reason to act or accomplish something. Mood is a state or quality of feeling at a particular time. Confidence is a belief in oneself and one's abilities. Anxiety is distress or uneasiness of mind caused by fear of failing. And preparedness, in this case perceived preparedness, is the perceived state of being prepared for readiness. Next slide. Thesis. Once again, this is a case study at SAS. So the results cannot be generalized for the entire world population of students. And also, that is because it varies from school to school. So my thesis also is for an exploratory paper, so it is not a central argument. So it just says that the test preparation for the SAT impacts students with regards to these 5 different factors. Method. So for this research, I implemented a mixed research method. This came from cuozzo's framework for research design. In mixed research, I employed both qualitative and quantitative surveys to collect qualitative and quantitative data, which you'll soon see in the next slide. So the limitations of this is that, once again, since it is a case study at SAS, it cannot apply to the entire world. And because I've used surveys, there's a certain amount of response bias that I can get in surveys, such as voluntary response bias and involuntary response bias. The way I selected my students to take the survey was random. I selected 100 students, 83 of which responded. Next slide. So here's the quantitative survey. So as you can see, it starts off with a question that asks whether or not the student has prepared for the SAT outside of school. If they have, they go to the right, and if they have not, they go to the left survey. So these surveys mirror each other in the way that the questions are designed in a very similar manner, so that the answers can be directly compared. As you can see, it's using a Likert scale, which has been tried and true in various research papers, and it gives statistically accurate data. The next survey is qualitative. So again, it asks if the student has been to test preparation outside of school. And the questions are not only structured similarly from qualitative to qualitative survey, they're also very similar to the quantitative surveys. This is so that I can cross-reference qualitative and quantitative data in order to make sure that it's the most accurate as possible. Here's the raw data that I collected, although this does not mean much like this. When I present it in the findings section in the next slide, it will mean much more to you. So, the 5 factors that I surveyed for ended up having very different results. For motivation, the statistical evidence showed that students who took preparation for the SAT actually were less motivated to do well on the SAT. And the qualitative reasoning that I found in multiple responses was that students just want to get it over with. With respect to mood, test preparation also impacts the mood negatively. One student said that since they were spending more time studying the SAT, they had less time to work on their schoolwork, and that caused tension at school. that it caused tension with their parents because they had less time, and so it thus negatively impacted their mood. The most surprising one is probably with preparedness. Students who took test preparation for the SAT actually felt less perceived preparedness than those who did not take test preparation for the SAT. This is not to say that after going through test preparation they felt less prepared. They're of course more prepared, but the students who did not take the test felt more prepared than the ones who did take test preparation because they just did not know how hard the test was. The students who were in test preparation were taking practice tests and getting things wrong, and thus they felt worse and worse about their scores. Anxiety. Anxiety is the only factor that stayed the same among the two different groups of people. So both test preparation and non-test preparation students were anxious because they realized the impact of such a high-stakes test on their college application process. And then lastly, confidence. Confidence impacted students who took test preparation, impacted the confidence of students who took test preparation. It's connected to preparedness and motivation, and it also lowered their confidence because the qualitative reasoning was that they just didn't care about the SAT anymore after studying it for so long, and they just also want to get it over with. So the significance and conclusion. Since this is an exploratory paper, I'm not urging anybody to do anything. Now this adds to the current body of knowledge on standardized testing, it adds to the body of knowledge on the SAT, it adds to the psychological implications of test preparation, and it also adds to the ongoing debate on test preparation. There's a lot of questions right now about, is test preparation economically viable, is it worth it, and now you can add in the psychological factor for people like students, teachers, and parents to consider. This will definitely affect people's decisions on test preparation here at SAS. Further research is needed if we're to apply this data elsewhere in the world because, again, SAS is an international school, it's affluent, it's competitive, so the results gained here will be very different from results gotten in a public school and a rural place in the United States. Thank you, that's all.